Hello everyone. Welcome back to another Commander review, Commander breakdown. Still working on a name. As of right now, I'm calling it a Commander review. And today, we are going to be talking about Angus Mackenzie. I'm going to pull up I changed my format up a little bit. Obviously, my Adun Oakenshield was like a 30-minute long video after post and everything. But I've shortened it down quite a bit. I think I'm gonna like this formula for how I want to do these videos. So Angus Mackenzie is next on my list of legendary creatures from the Legends set. Angus Mackenzie is... Sorry, I always forget with Legends, the subtypes weren't necessarily added yet. So I gotta pull up Angus's actual current text. So he is a legendary creature, human cleric, white, blue, and green to cast. It is a 2/2, and he has this cool little ability that says for green, white, and a blue, or on the card you're looking at here, it's a white, blue, and a green. Prevent and tap him. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Activate only before the combat damage step. So a great source of protection for your creatures. Generally, you would see this in like a very defensive deck, which we're about to get into. So with Angus Mackenzie, there are no specific card rulings for this card. So again, very simple, straightforward. All he does is for 3 mana, tap him, and you get to prevent all combat damage. Just remember that you gotta do it before the damage step. So, I guess if there were any rulings on this card, you just need to remember that you declare attackers, or they declare attackers. Someone declares blockers, and once people have declared blockers, that is your last chance to activate this ability. Because once you enter the damage step, and damage has then been exchanged, you cannot activate this ability, because you can't undo the damage beyond that point. Once it's done, it's done. And that would kind of break the game if you could do that. So remember that you have until blockers are declared to activate this ability. Okay? That is important note. So beyond that, though, there are no actual card rulings for Angus Mackenzie. Very straightforward card, very simple. Next, let's talk about some things that synergize with him, that don't synergize with him. Right now, I've only done something that does synergize with him. So a card that does synergize with Angus Mackenzie would be Seedborn Muse, which is a creature spirit, 2/4. It costs 3 generic, and then green. And it has a fantastic ability that says untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. And the reason why that is so incredible, if you don't already know, is it means that you can use Angus's defensive ability with your untapped mana and him being untapped every single turn. So as long as Seedborn Muse is out, you have a fog on a stick every turn, which is super good in a deck like this. Incredibly good. As far as non-bows go, like things that wouldn't synergize with him, I think I'll talk more about that in like one of the deck ideas I had, but really, he's really straightforward. So like, unless you're purposefully putting something in the deck that contradicts what he's doing, there's not really much to go against the grain, so to speak, in this deck. Alright, so what deck of mine does he go to? And this is also going to be kind of my deck breakdown, the 10 cards that I would put in this deck. So the deck of mine that he is in is a Defender wall deck, pretty much. So the 10 cards that are in here, I guess first the strategy. The strategy of the deck is very simple. It's a Pillar Fort style deck where you are building up a giant wall to negate or deter anyone from attacking you, so everyone has to fight amongst themselves. You get to sit pretty and build your defenses and build your engine, so you can either go out with one big swing and win, or you can have some alternate win condition that no one can stop you, no one can interact with. So the 10 cards that I would put in for this style of deck is, starting with the ideal card, is you want cards that prevent people from even thinking of attacking you or interacting with you. So the card I chose was Sphere of Safety. There's a lot of great enchantments that can go in a Defender Pillow Fort style deck. And since you'll have a lot of enchantments, Sphere of Safety is an enchantment that's 4 and a white. Reads, creatures can't attack you or a planeswalker you control unless their controller pays X for each of those creatures, where X is the number of enchantments you control. And based on the image you guys can see here right now, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 enchantments. So with just these 5 enchantments in play, no one can attack you unless they pay 5 mana for every creature that's attacking you, which is phenomenal defense. That's exactly what you're looking for in this deck. Next is you want some card draw, and you also kind of want to goad your opponents into fighting each other, so you want to encourage them to, attack everyone else but you. So a great way to encourage those attacks is through an enchantment called Curse of Verbosity, which is an aura curse, and you enchant a player for 2 and a blue. Whenever enchanted player is attacked, draw a card. Each opponent attacking that player does the same. Great card advantage, you get to draw a card whenever anyone attacks that player, but it incentivizes other players to attack because they also get to draw a card. So, great form of goading in the deck. Next, we're kind of looking at the iconic creatures of the deck. You really want things with very high toughness. And for this deck specifically, I'm going to have a lot of creatures specifically with Defender. It's going to be a Defender tribal deck. So, for my mana, my ramp package, I chose Axebane and Guardian, which is a human druid. Costs 2 and a green. It's a 0/3. It has Defender, so it cannot attack. It can only block. But it has a tap ability that says add X mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool, where X is the number of creatures with Defender you control. So, as of right now, I only have 2 creatures with Defender on this image that you're looking at here. But that's tap, add 2 mana of any combination of any of the colors, but for this deck it would be green, white, and blue. You get 5 creatures with Defender, that's 5 mana. So for 3 mana, you are incrementally growing and getting that mana back, and it's a phenomenal card in my personal opinion. There's other cards out there that work great with Defender. There's creatures with Defender you control get an additional 2 toughness. Whenever a creature with Defender blocks, you gain 2 life. There are things that are like, you can tap this to mill your opponents, equal to the number of creatures you have with Defender. Defender is a really fun and supported archetype in this game, which I enjoy. I love the Defender archetype. Karmic Justice is what I picked for targeted removal, because again, the idea of this deck is you want to make it so if your opponents do anything to you, it's not worthwhile. Therefore, they will target other people. So Karmic Justice is an enchantment, 2 and a white, that says, whenever a spell or ability an opponent controls destroys a non-creature permanent you control, you may destroy target permanent that opponent controls. So nice. So nice. Not a great way to protect your creatures per se, but all of your enchantments, which is like kind of the sub-theme, one of the sub-themes of the deck is it's very enchantment heavy. It will make it so your opponents don't want to blow those up, because then you're going to blow up something of theirs and make it not worth their while. It'll be 2 of their stuff for 1 of yours, which is not efficient on their end. So great way to deter hate from your opponents. A board wipe that I thought was fun for this deck was Expel the Interlopers, which just recently came out. It is 3 white and a white. Choose a number between 0 and 10. Destroy all creatures with power greater than or equal to the chosen number. Phenomenal. If you're looking at a lot of these creatures, a lot of them have low power. The biggest one is Azor's Elocutors. I don't know how to pronounce that word, and I'm so sorry. But low power in this deck, so a lot of them are going to have 0 because a lot of them are going to have Defender, which, you know, they don't have power in that strategy. So you pick 1, everything dies. Phenomenal. All those tokens that the pesky go wide decks are making, all the giant heavy hitters that the mono green decks are throwing at you, all gone. But you get to keep all of your creatures and all your defenders, which is sweet. As far as protection goes, one of the best cards I've ever played with that gives protection is Privileged Position, which is an enchantment that costs 2, and then its hybrid cost, white-green, white-green, white-green. Other permanents you control have hexproof, which your opponents cannot target. If that permanent has hexproof, they cannot target it with abilities or spells. Great form of protection. It kind of helps cover the bases that Karmic Justice can't cover, so it protects your creatures, which is super good. Next, I have a Tutor in the deck, and again, I try and keep things flavorful to the deck as much as possible, rather than optimized or like high level. I don't necessarily care to play high level decks. I like to play fun, synergistic, unique decks that are enjoyable not just for me but for the others when I do things. So as far as searching or tutoring, I picked Shield Wall Sentinel, which is an artifact creature golem. It's a 1/3 and it costs 4 generic mana. It has Defender, but when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with Defender, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Again, very heavy Defender deck. You're going to have a lot of toolboxy kind of Defender cards like Axebane Guardian that can give you mana. There's ones that allow you to heal yourself when defenders block. So many different kinds of defenders, and there's so many cards that benefit defending, and this is one of them. So, super fun. I thought this was going to be a blast, so I'm definitely going to be getting this for that deck because I don't have it already. Azor's Elocutors, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is my alternate win condition. It's Angus Mackenzie, it's Pillow Fort, it's going to be impossible for you to ever take damage. So a Human Advisor, 3/5, and it costs 3 generic and 2 hybrid, white-blue, white-blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a Filibuster counter on Azor's Elocutors. Then, if Azor's Elocutors has 5 or more Filibuster counters on it, you win the game. Whenever a source deals damage to you, remove a Filibuster counter from Azor's Elocutors. As long as you are building up this wall that no one can penetrate via spells or combat damage, you will win the game so fast. Like, in 5 turns, you will win the game. It is a great win condition. It puts a clock on the table. It makes you an immediate threat for a defender deck, which I think is really cool. Great card, great alternate win condition. But it still provides a challenge for yourself and for the other players. So it's not like, I don't know, it's not necessarily feel bad. I don't know. I like the card. If you don't like the card, let me know in the comments below. And then last 2 cards. Something that really synergizes with the main theme of the deck, Defender, Pillow Fort, is High Alert. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. And then creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have Defender, which is the main text of that card. Also, this is an enchantment. It's 1, a white, and a blue to cast. It has a 4 mana activated ability, 2 white and a blue, untap target creature. Great for like Axebane Guardian. When you get enough, wow, I didn't even realize this when I was looking at this. I did not plan this. If you can get 5 creatures with Defender in play without them getting board wiped or anything, and an Axebane Guardian, you have infinite mana. Because Axebane Guardian can make any combination of mana in any color. So you need 4 of it to untap the Axebane Guardian. So if you have a 5th Defender in play, then you are making 1 extra mana. Use 4 of it, untap it, do it again, do it again, do it again. So infinite mana combo. I did not even realize that when I was putting this together. So wow. I don't usually like playing with infinite combos. Infinite combos are not my forte. I don't enjoy playing with infinite combos, but I accidentally threw those together just because those are like 2 really good cards. So yeah, you can do infinite mana even in a Defender Pillow Fort archetype, which is a lot of fun. Wow, I had no idea. But the main thing about this card is it makes it so all of your blockers are now attackers, and you can play this at the end of the game when you're ready to make the big swing, and you just devastate the board with your 4 power, your 5 power, your 3 power. Like, everything that was doing 0 damage is now doing triple the damage, almost double the damage at the end of the game for a big swing. Very fun card. And it also, if you play it earlier in the game, it means that now you can block and eliminate threats potentially, or get rid of pesky tokens. Last is kind of going on the sub-theme support of goading your opponents into fighting each other, so you only have to deal with 1 person at the end of the game. So Sly Instigator, great card, Human Wizard, 2/4 for 3 generic and a blue. It has an activated ability of blue, tap the Sly Instigator. Until your next turn, target creature an opponent controls can't be blocked. Goad that creature. So, phenomenal. If there's a big 10/10 creature you don't want coming at you, but you know it can take someone else out, goad it and make it unblockable. So the other opponent has to take the damage. Great way to thin the players out quickly so you can control the game, which is a lot of fun. Very control heavy, very much wanting to throw your opponents against each other so they don't come at you, and then you come in with either a big swing at the end with things like High Alert, or you set up a board state that no one can get through and you win in 5 turns with Azor's Elocutors. Oh, how do you pronounce that card name? Let me know in the comments below. Next, let's talk about 2 other deck ideas. I summed this up very short compared to what I did for Adun Oakenshield. Another popular strategy that is seen on the internet for Angus Mackenzie is Super Friends. Very simple strategy. Angus can prevent the damage to and from all creatures, so whenever a giant horde of creatures comes to destroy your Super Friends, your Planeswalkers, you tap Angus, you save them from dying. Very simple strategy, very same Pillow Fort idea as before, but this time you're doing things like Tamiyo. All the Planeswalkers that are in these colors use their awesome abilities. Extra protection that fits the Super Friends theme, so ripples of potential where you can proliferate, add more counters onto your Planeswalkers, and then phase them out so they don't die. Then you have win conditions like Oath of Teferi, where you are double using, where you can activate loyal abilities of Planeswalkers you control twice each turn rather than once. So very much the same strategy, where you are very defensive, you're very Pillow Fort, don't attack me, leave me alone, and then you are accruing massive amounts of value to ultimately control and win the game. So Super Friends, great idea. An idea that I thought of, because one of the things that I think is fun with playing this game is trying to build decks that don't work. I try and build contradictory decks to the commanders. So for Adun Oaken Shield, something that was very contradictory to me was like the Ball Lightning deck, where it's a one-use card, but then you can get it back with Adun Oaken Shield. It's repeatable. It's very inefficient because it's only one use. The Blitz mechanic obviously fixed that. The Adventure deck kind of fills that same category of, it's like this weird niche that you're using the rules of the card in a way that like you wouldn't traditionally expect, but with cards that you wouldn't traditionally use in those colors. I don't know. Really fun, unique strategies that I don't see. And this is one that I have not seen anywhere, so I don't know if anyone has done this. Please let me know if anyone has done this or if you have done this, because I want to know how it works. I thought to myself, what is something you can do with Angus Mackenzie to build a deck around that is weird, wacky, that doesn't make sense, and that shouldn't work, right? And I think I found a pretty cool idea. So Angus Mackenzie is very Pillow Fort themed. That's what he wants you to do. Play your Planeswalkers, play your enchantments, play your cool defensive defender creatures, whatever the strategy is, even if it's like group hug where you're giving everyone else resources to kill each other. This card, or this deck idea, does none of that. It has a completely different strategy, complete unique idea, where you're taking Angus Mackenzie's ability of defense and turning it on its head. This is an aggressive Angus Mackenzie deck, which I think would be so fun. Please let me know if anyone has done this. The idea of this deck is that you are actually an aggro deck and you're trying to attack your opponents as much as possible to, you know, win the game. You are an aggro deck. All aggro decks go out swinging. So you got to be fast, you got to be aggressive. You're going to want ways to like have your creatures have vigilance so they can block later on. You're in Bant colors, so that is very easy to do. But the main idea of this deck is, because of Angus Mackenzie's ability to prevent all damage before the damage step happens, is you have to play with creatures that have unique block abilities. So this is kind of where the non-bow of Angus Mackenzie comes in. There's a lot of cards out there, and maybe I'll put these up in post for what I'm using for reference right now. I don't have the cards up, but there are a lot of cards that are... the old school Samurai is a very simple example, or the mechanic Rampage is a very simple example. Rampage and the Bushido mechanic for Samurais is a mechanic that says whenever this creature becomes blocked, it gets more power and toughness based on how many creatures blocking it, so on and so forth. Each rule is unique in that way. The non-bow with this strategy is you do not want creatures that get extra power or toughness when they become blocked, because Angus Mackenzie, and if you see here Statecraft, Angus Mackenzie's ability is creatures deal no damage, so that's your creatures too. So beefing their toughness or power doesn't do anything because no damage is going to be exchanged. So avoid cards that buff the toughness and power of creatures. However, there are plenty of creatures out there that have unique block abilities. So the three cards I have up here is first starting with Engulfing Slagworm, which is a 7/7 worm that costs 7 and 2 green mana, and it has whenever Engulfing Slagworm blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, destroy that creature, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. The great thing about that ability is that it doesn't matter if damage is exchanged. All that matters is that it becomes blocked or is blocked. If it becomes blocked or does the blocking. it will trigger and do its ability, regardless of damage happening. So if you attack with a 7/7 worm, and they chump block because, you know, they don't want to take 7 damage, or they block with something that has Death Touch, or they block with something that is bigger, like a 10/10. It doesn't matter what they block with. All that matters is if something happens and you feel like you might lose the Engulfing Slagworm to combat damage in some way, you can activate Angus Mackenzie before damage happens, and damage won't exchange. You won't deal the 7 damage to the creature. It won't potentially kill the Slagworm, but you get this awesome ability because it was still considered blocked. So you still get to destroy the creature, and you still get to gain life from the creature. And there are tons of cards out there. Maybe not tons. It's a small archetype, but there's enough that you could build a deck around being blocked abilities. And so it's kind of a lose-lose situation for your opponents. If they don't block, they're going to take damage. If they do block, you can protect your board because there's a lot of smaller ones, like there's a 2/2 or something that when it becomes blocked, you draw a card. So they can either take the 2 damage or they block, you protect it with Angus Mackenzie, and then you still get to draw a card because the creature was blocked. So either way, you're getting something out of combat, whether it is actual damage and you don't use Angus Mackenzie, or with combat damage and with combat damage and you're just whittling them down without Angus Mackenzie, or you use Angus Mackenzie and you still get an activated, a triggered ability from them becoming blocked. So that's the very long roundabout way of saying that. If you wanted to go maybe artifact theme, you could do Cyberman Patrol. There's an amazing ability called Afflict from the Amonkhet block. Afflict, I'll read Cyberman Patrol, and then I'll read the ability. Artifact creature Cyberman. It's a 2/2 for 2 generic mana. Artifact creatures you control have Afflict 3. Whenever a creature with Afflict 3 becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. So again, one of those things where if this creature is blocked, the opponent is still going to lose life. It's not combat damage, but they're still going to lose life. And because of Angus's ability, none of your creatures are going to die from combat damage. So you can be as aggressive as you want and have a way to protect them with Angus Mackenzie. The biggest thing with this deck is you either want to be able to use Angus Mackenzie multiple times with like Seedborn Muse, or have an enchantment like Statecraft, which is 3 and a blue, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to and dealt by creatures you control. Great card in this deck because you don't care about ever dealing combat damage. You just want your creatures to either block on the defensive or to be blocked by your opponents. The downside with a card like Statecraft is, and this is one of the things you gotta be careful for, is if you play with Statecraft and you attack your opponent, they can choose not to block, and you don't get the combat damage because of Statecraft. It says that they cannot deal damage as well as be dealt damage. So only play Statecraft if you are like doing the defensive game, in my opinion. If you're going to try and be truly aggro, do not use Statecraft. Use other things that prevent combat damage when creatures attack. There's an artifact that does that. I'll put it up in post. So keep an eye out for that. Statecraft is the one that came to my mind because you can use it with like the Engulfing Slagworm and other creatures that trigger when blocked or becoming blocked. But this card won't work for the aggro plan. And I think this deck would be really fun if you can build it in an aggro style way. So yeah, I don't know if I'll ever build this. I would love to build this. I may in the future, we'll see what happens, but I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. And a Bant aggro deck led by Angus Mackenzie, full of cards that are very powerful, like the Slagworm, that's 7, that's a lot of damage, or they could be really weak, 1 damage, 2 damage, Either way, it doesn't matter. What matters is your opponents can decide if they're going to block. And if they do block and you want to save your creatures, you can use Angus Mackenzie to prevent the damage, and then you still get these awesome combat triggers from your creatures. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this idea. I think it would be phenomenal, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think. Lastly, let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses of Angus Mackenzie. Overall, he is great and consistent form of protection, just like I have typed up. He is repeatable, he's in the command zone, so you can always get him on turn 3 into play, and then you have a way to protect your board state, or yourself, honestly. And that's great. The fact that it's repeatable is phenomenal. That's not every day that you can have a repeatable fog in play all the time. You usually have to kind of figure out some combo or synergy with that. The problem and weakness with Angus Mackenzie follows the same lines as Adun Oakenshield. The ability can be expensive. That's 3 mana that you have to save, and in the early game, you may not need the protection, but sometimes people, go off. They get a soul ring, then they ramp up to more ramp, then they get a big creature by turn 4 or 5, and you need a way to protect yourself. Well, then that means you have to save 3 mana. That means you're not casting your Kodama's Reaches or your soul rings, your signets, because you need the 3 mana to use the fog effect. So it's expensive. And even in the late game, it is still kind of a tax. That's 3 mana you don't get to use if you need it to protect your board. And it's slow. Just like Adun Oakenshield, you have to tap him. So it's a one-use situation unless you can find synergies that untap him during other people's untap steps. So bear that in mind. Overall, I think it is a phenomenal card. I can't wait to play with him. And please let me know if someone builds this aggro Angus Mackenzie deck with abilities like Engulfing Slagworm, where if they block or become blocked, you get to do this cool thing, and it doesn't matter if you deal combat damage or not, because you're going to use Angus to save it from dying potentially. So phenomenal card. That's where I'm going to end it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified when more videos come out of commanders that I'm reviewing. I'm going to keep going through Legends. Don't worry, some of these are going to get even shorter than the videos I have been doing, because some of the Legends from this set have no ability text at all. Vanilla creatures, so those are going to be very short episodes. Anyway, I'm enjoying this. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you guys are too. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!